The ice breaks beneath her like a gunshot. Sarah doesn't scream. No air left for that. The creek swallows her whole, black water closing over her head, and she thinks, this is easier. Better than the fever burning through her chest. Better than the 3 days she's walked with pneumonia rattling in her lungs, fleeing a husband whose fists spoke louder than scripture. She surfaces once, gasps. The current drags her under cottonwood roots. Her dress becomes an anchor. The cold stops hurting after a while. She thinks of her mother's china shattered on the kitchen floor, the blue pattern like forget-me-nots. She thinks Thomas will drink himself quiet now. No one left to hit. The water pushes her against something solid, a fallen tree. Her fingers won't grip. The coughing starts again, even here, even drowning. Blood on her lips tastes like copper pennies. Then hands, large hands, rough as tree bark, hooking under her arms. I got you. The voice comes from far away. She's hauled upward, ribs scraping timber, dumped onto the bank like a caught fish. She lies there choking, world spinning grey. I'm dying anyway. She manages between coughs, blood speckling the snow. Save yourself. The man crouching beside her has a face like weathered leather, 40 maybe, scar through his left eyebrow, 3 days of beard. He strips off his coat without a word and wraps it around her. Not while I'm breathing, he says. He lifts her. She weighs nothing to him. Through the haze, she sees a rifle slung across his back, rabbit carcasses tied to his belt. Hunter. She tries to speak, but the coughing takes her again, wet and rattling. Don't talk. His voice is quiet, certain. Cabin's a quarter mile. The walk takes forever. She drifts in and out. At some point she realizes she's pressed against his chest, feeling the steady drum of his heartbeat through flannel. He smells like wood smoke and pine sap. His breathing never changes, even carrying her weight. The cabin appears through the trees. Small, rough-hewn logs chinked with moss, a stone chimney trailing smoke. He kicks the door open, carries her straight to the hearth where coals still glow. Gotta get you dry. He sets her down on a bearskin rug. She's shaking so hard her teeth crack together. He fetches blankets from a chest, worn wool that smells like cedar. His hands are careful, impersonal, stripping the wet dress away and wrapping her tight. Name's Jacob. He's building up the fire now, feeding it split pine. You got a name? Sarah. A whisper. Sarah. All right. He fills a kettle from a bucket, hangs it over the flames. You're safe here. She watches him move through the single room. Every action deliberate, no wasted motion. He pulls herbs from rafters, sage, something else she doesn't recognize, and crushes them between his palms. The fever climbs. She sees 2 of him, then 3. Am I dying? She asks. Jacob meets her eyes. His are grey, steady. Not if I can help it. He brings her willow bark, tea when the water boils, lifts her head so she can drink. The liquid burns going down, but the coughing eases. He sits back on his heels, watching her with that same steady attention he'd give a wounded animal. Sleep now, he says. I'll keep the fire going. Sarah's eyes close. The last thing she feels is another blanket being tucked around her shoulders. The last thing she hears is wood being stacked nearby, a promise of warmth through the night. She wakes to pale light and the smell of venison cooking. 3 days pass this way, maybe 4. Time moves strange when fever has you. Jacob feeds her broth, changes the compress on her forehead, helps her to the chamber pot behind a hanging blanket without meeting her eyes. His hands stay professional, careful. On the 5th morning, Sarah sits up without help. Jacob's at the table, cleaning his rifle. He glances over, nods once. Fever broke. You stayed. Her voice sounds like gravel. Had nowhere else to be. He runs an oiled cloth down the barrel. Coffee's hot. She wraps a blanket around herself and stands. Her legs shake but hold. The cabin reveals itself in daylight. One room, maybe 12 by 15 feet. A rope bed in the corner. The table and 2 chairs. Shelves holding tin plates, a skillet, jars of preserved vegetables. Everything clean, orderly. You live alone, she says. 8 years now. He doesn't look up. Sugar's in the blue tin. Sarah pours coffee with trembling hands. It's strong, bitter, real. She sits in the second chair and watches him work. His fingers move with the same steady precision he brings to everything. The scar through his eyebrow is old, puckered white. I should go, she says finally. Where to? She has no answer. Jacob sets down the rifle. Got a storm coming. He nods toward the window. 3, 4 days maybe. You're welcome to wait it out. I can't pay you. Didn't ask you to. He stands, pulls on his coat. Need to check the trap line. Bolt the door behind me. Don't open it unless you hear me call out. He's gone before she can respond. Sarah explores the cabin slowly. Behind the bed, she finds a trunk. Locked. Above the table, a shelf holds a single book. Marcus Aurelius, pages worn soft. She touches the spine, but doesn't take it down. The window faces east. Through wavy glass, she sees forest stretching endlessly, snow beginning to fall. Jacob returns at dusk with 2 rabbits and a grouse. He shows her how to skin them without speaking, his knife moving precisely. She watches, learning. When he nods toward the second rabbit, she takes the knife. Her first cut is clumsy. Firmer, he says. Like you mean it. She tries again. Better. They eat by firelight. The meat is tough, but good. Jacob breaks the silence. Man you're running from. He coming after you? Sarah's hands still. Don't know. He got a right to. He's my husband. Jacob nods slowly. His face shows nothing. That's not what I asked. She meets his eyes. No, he's got no right. Then he won't find you here. Jacob tears bread from a loaf. Storm will cover your tracks anyway. Why are you helping me? He chews, considering. Finally, my father used to say every man stands before God with his choices. What he did when nobody was watching. He looks at the fire. I want to stand knowing I did right when it mattered. The snow falls for 6 days. Sarah grows stronger. She sweeps the cabin, washes their few dishes in melted snow, learns to feed the fire the way Jacob does. Small pieces, steady. He teaches her to set snares, to read weather in the sky, to sharpen a knife on a whetstone. They don't talk much, but the silence feels comfortable now. Shared. On the 7th day, the sun returns. Sarah stands at the window, watching light break through the clouds. Jacob comes to stand beside her, coffee cup in hand. I could leave tomorrow, she says. Storm's past. You could. But I don't know where to go. Jacob sips his coffee. Town's 15 miles south. Got a boarding house. Methodist preacher might help. He pauses. Or you could stay the winter. Earn your keep helping around here. Leave come spring if you want. Sarah turns to him. His expression is neutral, but something in his eyes. Not pity, not want, just offering. Spring, she says quietly. Jacob nods. Spring then. That night, he gives her the rope bed and takes the bearskin by the fire. Sarah lies in darkness, listening to him breathe. The cabin feels smaller now, warmer, like something more than shelter, like maybe, possibly, the beginning of home. February brings a thaw. Jacob makes the trip to town for supplies. Need anything? He's checking the loads on his pack horse, breath fogging in morning air. Sarah considers. Thread, if you can spare it. He nods. Back before dark. She watches him disappear through the trees. The cabin feels hollow without him. She occupies herself mending his spare shirt, fingers working the torn seam. The fabric is soft from washing, worn thin at the collar. She imagines his hands on it, his shoulders, stops that thought. Jacob returns just as the sun touches the horizon. He's quiet, tense. What happened? Sarah asks. He unpacks in silence. Flour, salt, coffee, a spool of black thread he sets beside her without meeting her eyes. Finally, ran into the preacher, Reverend Michaels. And Jacob sits heavily. Asked about you. Said a man named Thomas came through 3 weeks back, looking for his wife. Said she was sick, confused, might be dangerous to herself. Sarah's hands go cold. What did you tell him? Nothing. Jacob's jaw tightens. But the Reverend, he looked at me different after. Like I was... He trails off. Like you were harboring a stolen woman. Something like that. They sit in silence. The fire pops. I should leave, Sarah says. No. The word comes hard. Final. Jacob looks at her now. Really looks. I stood there in that general store, and Michaels was watching me. And I didn't speak up for you. Didn't say you were sick. That you'd nearly died. That any man could see you weren't running without cause. He shakes his head. I was a coward. You were careful. I was ashamed. He stands abruptly, paces. My father, he would have spoken, would have stood in that store and made them see truth. But I just took my goods and left. Sarah rises, crosses to him. She's close enough now to see the shame in his face, the anger at himself. Jacob, you gave me shelter when I was dying. You asked nothing. You treated me with dignity. Her voice stays steady. That's not cowardice. It's not enough. It's everything. His eyes meet hers. Something passes between them, unnamed. The knock comes 3 days later. Morning. Jacob and Sarah are eating cornmeal mush when fists hammer the door. Jacob Brennan, it's Reverend Michaels and Sheriff Porter. Need to speak with you. Jacob's hand finds Sarah's shoulder, steadying. Stay quiet, he murmurs. He opens the door. 2 men stand in the yard. The preacher, thin and grey. The sheriff, broad-shouldered, suspicious-eyed. Morning, Jacob. The sheriff tips his hat. Heard you might have a woman here. I might. Jacob doesn't move from the doorway. Her husband's looking for her, Thomas Harlow. Good man, deacon at the Baptist church over in Silverton. The preacher's voice drips concern. He's worried sick. Says she left during a fever. Might not be in her right mind. She's in her right mind. The sheriff's hand moves to his belt. We need to see her, Jacob. Make sure she's safe. She's safe. That's not for you to decide. The preacher steps forward. A woman belongs with her husband. It's God's law. You're interfering with holy matrimony. Jacob's silence stretches. Sarah can see the war in his shoulders. She stands, moves beside him. I'm here of my own will, she says clearly. The sheriff studies her. She knows what he sees. A thin woman in a man's shirt, bruises still yellow on her throat. His eyes narrow. Mom, your husband says you're unwell, says you need care. My husband put these marks on me. Sarah touches her neck. And these. She pulls back her sleeve, showing finger-shaped bruises. I left because staying meant dying. The preacher's face hardens. A wife's duty is to endure, to submit. Perhaps you provoked... Get off my land. Jacob's voice comes low, dangerous. Now, Jacob. She stays. That's final. Jacob's hand finds the small of Sarah's back. Protective, public. Any man wants to argue can take it up with me. The sheriff and preacher exchange glances. The sheriff nods slowly. Your choice, Jacob. But the town won't like it. You'll be marked for this. Then I'm marked. They leave. Jacob closes the door, leans against it. Sarah sees his hands shaking. You didn't have to do that, she whispers. Yes, he says. I did. That night they sit by the fire, not speaking. Jacob whittles a piece of pine. Sarah mends socks. The silence feels different now, heavier, charged. Jacob, she says finally, what you did today, standing for me. I don't. His hands still. Don't thank me for what should be plain decency. It's not plain, not to me. He looks at her across the firelight. His eyes hold something raw, unguarded. I'm not a good man, Sarah. Not like my father was. I've done things. In the war. After. He sets down the knife. I came out here to be alone because I didn't trust myself around people anymore. I don't believe that. You should. But his voice breaks. You should leave come spring. Find someone whole. Someone who doesn't wake screaming. Someone who... Sarah crosses to him, kneels beside his chair, takes his scarred hands in hers. I'm not whole either, she says quietly. Maybe that's all right. Maybe we don't need to be. Jacob's thumb traces her knuckles, gentle, wondering. Spring's a long way off, he says. Yes, Sarah agrees. It is. March arrives with mud and bird song. Sarah wakes one morning to find Jacob already outside, turning earth behind the cabin. She watches through the window as he works the spade, breaking winter-hardened ground. His movements are methodical, patient. She brings him coffee. He straightens, wiping his brow. Garden? She asks. Thought it was time. He takes the cup. If you're staying. The question hangs unspoken. Sarah looks at the dark soil, the boundaries he's marked with string and stakes. Large enough for two people, large enough for permanence. What grows here? She asks. Potatoes, squash, beans if we're lucky. He pauses. My mother used to plant roses, said a home needed beauty, not just food. Did they grow? Every year. His voice softens. Even after she died, my father tended them, said it was the last thing he could do for her. Sarah sets down her cup, kneels at the garden's edge. The soil is cold, gritty, real. She pushes her fingers deep into it. Show me how, she says. They work side by side as the sun climbs. Jacob teaches her to plant by the moon, to space seeds properly, to mark rows with river stones. Their hands meet in the earth. Neither pulls away. At midday they rest in the shade. Jacob produces bread and dried meat from his pocket. They eat without speaking, watching clouds drift overhead. I used to have a garden, Sarah says finally. Before Thomas, my mother taught me. She traces patterns in the dirt. He plowed it under, said I was wasting time that belonged to him. Jacob's jaw tightens, but he doesn't speak. I planted sunflowers along the fence. Her voice stays steady. They were taller than me, bright as hope. She looks at her hands. He cut them down with an axe. Sarah, I'm not telling you for pity. She meets his eyes. I'm telling you so you understand. This garden, what it means. Jacob nods slowly. Understanding passes between them like a shared breath. Then we plant sunflowers, he says, along the south fence, where they'll catch the most light. That evening, Jacob produces a small cloth bag from the locked trunk. Seeds, carefully saved. Among them, rose seeds, wrapped in paper. From my mother's bushes, he says quietly. Been saving them. Didn't know what for. Sarah takes the packet with careful hands. We'll plant them by the door. Together, Jacob says. They work until darkness falls. Sarah's back aches, her hands blister, but the pain feels clean, honest. When they finally come inside, Jacob heats water for washing. They sit by the fire, exhausted, dirt under their fingernails. "I need to tell you something," Sarah says, "about why I stayed, why I'm staying." Jacob waits. "It's not just shelter, not anymore." She struggles for words. "You gave me dignity when I had none. You treated me like a person, not property. You stood for me when it cost you." She looks at him. "I'm staying because I choose you. Because here, with you, I'm free." Jacob's hands clasp together, knuckles white. "I'm not easy, Sarah. The nightmares, the days I can't speak, the way I forget sometimes where I am. I know. You deserve better. I deserve to choose." Her voice firms. "And I'm choosing this. You, us." He crosses to her then, kneels before her chair, takes her face in his rough hands. "I can't promise easy," he says. "Can't promise I won't fail you sometimes, but I can promise I'll try. Every day, to be worthy of that choice." Sarah leans into his touch. That's enough. Their kiss tastes like dirt and coffee, like beginning. Spring fully arrives. The garden sprouts green. Sarah unpacks the locked trunk one morning while Jacob's hunting. Inside, a woman's dress, carefully folded, a Bible with names written inside, a tintype of a young couple, the man clearly Jacob, the woman beautiful and laughing. Jacob finds her holding the photograph. "Rachel," he says quietly. "My wife, she died in childbirth. Baby too." He sits beside Sarah. "That's why I came here. Couldn't bear the house without her. I'm sorry. She'd like you." Jacob takes the tintype, studies it. "She'd say I was a fool for waiting so long." He looks at Sarah. "For letting myself feel again." Sarah sets the photograph back carefully. "We carry our dead with us. That's all right." "Yes," Jacob agrees. "It is." By June, roses bloom by the door. Sunflowers tower along the fence, their faces following the sun. Sarah tends them each morning while Jacob checks the trap lines. They fall into rhythms: breakfast at dawn, work through the day, evenings by the fire. They speak more now, share stories, learn each other's silences. One evening, Jacob carves something at the table. Sarah pretends not to watch. When he finishes, he holds it out. A small wooden rose, petals delicate and perfect. "For you," he says, "something that won't fade." Sarah turns it in her hands. Tears threaten. "It's beautiful. So are you." She keeps it on the windowsill where morning light catches it. In August, Sarah wakes to find Jacob's arms around her. Sometime in the night, they'd found each other. She fits against him perfectly, his breath warm on her neck. She doesn't move, doesn't want to break this peace. "Sarah," he murmurs, "you awake?" "Yes." "Stay," he says, not a question, a hope. "I'm not going anywhere." She turns to face him. His eyes are grey as morning. This is home now. Jacob's hand finds hers. Their fingers intertwine. Through the window, sunflowers nod in the breeze. The garden grows abundant, promising harvest. The wooden rose catches light, casting shadows that look like wings. They built this, not found it. Built it seed by seed, choice by choice, day by difficult day. Built it from broken pieces and second chances, from mercy freely given and dignity restored. Sarah rises, pulls on her dress. Jacob watches from the bed, content. "Coffee?" she asks. "Please." She moves through the cabin, their cabin, building up the fire, measuring grounds. Jacob joins her, hair mussed, pulling on his shirt. He kisses her temple in passing. Easy, natural. Outside, the garden waits. The roses bloom. The seasons turn. And in this small clearing, in the endless woods, two scarred people tend what they've grown together. Not perfect, not easy, but real. A life chosen deliberately. a home built from honesty and time. Love is not rescue, Sarah thinks, watching Jacob pour coffee. It's not salvation or fixing or completion. It's two people deciding every morning to keep planting, to keep tending, to keep choosing each other, even when, especially when, it's hard. Jacob catches her eye, smiles slightly. She smiles back. The work continues. The garden grows. That's enough. That's everything.